Let's bring in Sir William Browder, who was the largest foreign investor in Russia before being blacklisted by the Russian government for exposing corruption in Russian state-owned companies. Sir Browder, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. I do want to talk about the president's comments, what we just heard from him, but what is your reaction to these new threats from the president of potential new sanctions and tariffs on Russia?
Well, we've gone through a really rough couple of weeks in relation to this whole story. The president has sort of reversed previous policy of the United States, who was basically siding with Ukraine against Russia. Russia, of course, being the invader, Ukraine being the victim. And so we've seen a lot of really awful things. The U.S. has suspended military aid to Ukraine. The U.S. has suspended sharing of intelligence. U.S. has instructed various companies that do satellite imagery not to supply the information to Ukraine. And so as a result, they can't really defend themselves. And so it's kind of hard to make sense of what he was saying there, because he was saying that it's easier to deal with Russia, but Russia is the one who's doing all the aggression, and Ukraine is the one defending themselves. And so I would be very happy if he wanted to get tough on Russia, as has been the policy of all the allies before. But so far, it's just a statement, and what we've seen is real actions penalizing Ukraine.
Yeah, and he also said there, quote, I think we're doing very well with Russia, but they're bombing the hell out of Ukraine. Those are the president's words. He's saying he finds it more difficult to deal with Ukraine. What do you think it will take to bring an end to this, to the war between Russia and Ukraine?
Well, what it looks like Trump's strategy is to weaken Ukraine in every possible way so that they have to surrender to Russia. That seems to be the approach he's taking. I would be gladly disproved of that, but I don't see how suspending military aid to Ukraine and cutting off their ability to forewarn their citizens of bombs coming in any way does anything other than weakens them. And so so far nobody has articulated, from whether it's the president himself or his administration, what they hope Russia gives up in this whole thing. This is a negotiation. It's either a negotiation or it's forcing Ukraine into a capitulation. If it is a negotiation, what does Russia have to do? And nobody has said a word. He said that Russia is really easy to deal with. Well, what are they supposed to do? What are they supposed to give up? What promises have they made? What is he going to do if they don't make those promises? And none of that has been articulated by him or any member of his administration.
Right. And certainly, speaking of what Russia may or may not have to give up, we know that President Trump has said he does plan to meet with Vladimir Putin face to face. Do you think that happens? And if so, when, knowing that this other meeting is happening in Saudi Arabia next week?
Well, I think it's so premature to even predict what they're going to do if and when they have a meeting face to face. Remember, Donald Trump made an absolute firm promise that he was going to end this war in 24 hours. And of course, we're, in a very complicated war that's unendable in 24 hours. And what I know about Vladimir Putin is that he has no intention of ending this war, because he's winning the war, and he's winning it even more so because the United States has taken away resources from the Ukrainians to fight back. And so why would he want to end a war that he started, where he's never indicated at any point anything other than his most maximum demands, which is basically a total surrender of Ukraine? And so I don't see how the war ends unless, of course, Donald Trump does decide to use the mighty power of the United States and put extreme pressure on Russia to make compromises. But I've not seen any evidence of that yet.
Right. Right. Do you think we'll still see that rare earth minerals deal made with Ukraine to be a part of all of this?
Well, again, that whole rare earth mineral deal is just a nasty byproduct of this whole strange attitude. The money that was sent from the United States, which is, by the way, a lot less than all the numbers he's throwing out there, it's about 120 billion, was given as a grant, as most other money has been given to Ukraine. And so to somehow then say, I want that money back, I've never heard of a situation where the victim of a war. The invaded party has to pay war reparations. That's never happened. Now, thankfully, this minerals deal, which has now been negotiated, it doesn't really commit anybody to anything. It's a framework agreement that can be signed, and nobody has to put any money in, and nobody has to put any assets in, and everything can be agreed in some future date. I think it's more of a face-saving way for Trump to go back to his base and say, look, I got something in return. But, from any economic analysis, there's nothing really there.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.